he came, took some candy, and left. About 30 minutes later, he came back to the house, but he had changed his mask.
Oh, we've had that, yep. I remember that.
To get a second grab of candy.
Yeah. And you know what?
Didn't we just see that kid?
And we did that. We were, like I said, we were guilty of that as kids too. We would do that. It's funny how that happens, right? And I was just thinking, like with Ian's kid, right? So that kid that year, he got like this whole bowl of candy. So then he come back the next year.
Yeah, because I had to go out and take my daughter trick or treating. So the first kid that came to the door got my entire stash of household candy dumped into his bowl.
So I wonder if he came back the next year expecting the same thing, but didn't get it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that kid was probably the same one the next year, first time around. Yeah.
It's hilarious, right? That kid's like, I got to be the first kid because I'm going to get all the candy, right? This guy gives out whole bowls of candy.
We've had kids that really, if you hold the bowl out, they will grab and grab and grab. So I've had to sort of distribute.
And it was funny too for me. Because I can remember as kids, you know, we remembered which houses gave out like full-size candy bars or whole cans of pop and soda or, you know, things like, or the houses where they popped their own popcorn and put it in a bag and we were like, oh, we don't want that, right? And things like that. So, you know, so you as a kid, you have this all plotted out, right? You know, especially in neighborhoods. I don't know if it's the same anymore because people come and go so much now. Like people move into a neighborhood and move out. But back when we were kids, I mean, the neighborhood you grew up, people had lived there for like their entire lives, right? You didn't have all of this moving around. And the odd time you would get a new person moving in the neighborhood. But for the most part, it was the same families. So you kind of knew after the years which places were like the really good ones and then which ones you kind of gave a swerve to, right? And also, too, we had, like, on my street, because, like I said, it was really an unpaved laneway to a farm that didn't have any streetlights or any sidewalks. We even had a number of houses that still had dirt floors in them that just had, like, linoleum rolled over the floor or boards put down over dirt, right? These were not, you know, we had a farrier across the street and a blacksmith on the other side of us. And so these were, you know, our house was a nice little bungalow that was built in the 1950s, but there was a lot of homes that were there from maybe 100 years prior. Like there was maybe 4 or 5 original farm dwellings on that laneway going down to this big dairy farm, because that would have been people who had worked at the farm and they would have lived on the laneway and then, you know, walked down to work every day. But it's just funny that you remember these things, right? Like I always remember which house gave out, like, you know, full-size candy bars and things like that. So it was kind of funny.
There was full-on strategy involved, isn't there?
Oh, totally, right? And that's what I say. I'm not sure that kids nowadays, I don't know, maybe it depends on the neighborhoods that you're in still, if that happens anymore, right? I'm sure to some degree it does. But I just remember that as a kid. And, you know, sort of the interesting thing, too, about, you know, our modern Halloween, as we want to call it, I mean, it didn't really kick in until literally the Victorian era, because prior to that, you would have had, you know, in that colonial period, it was really still about harvest and surviving, right? There wasn't a lot of luxuries for a lot of people unless they were people of wealth. Or you were living in a city at that point. But during the colonial times, you know, people first, you know, sort of settling on the land, et cetera, it would have been really kind of kept to the family or maybe just a couple of close by farms, if that were the case. But I think it would have been more, you know, sort of telling stories and maybe playing some games and eating. Right, again, and that in the Victorian era, that's really when it kind of took on a mind of its own or a life of its own, because that's when, you know, there were still a lot of autumn festivals going on, but Halloween wasn't really celebrated everywhere at that point. So really until like maybe 1870, well, actually probably around the time of the potato famine, so the 1850s, 1860s, when the Irish started to come to America, I think that they really sort of helped establish what we know as Halloween today, right? I think before that it was always more of a a fall festival kind of thing, and probably not so much what we know. But I want to read this because I came across this and I thought it was worth a little giggle. It's one of those did you knows. Okay, so I didn't know it, but I find it funny. Did you know more people, especially millennials, hate to use that word, but especially millennials, buy costumes for their pets now than ever before? So there's almost 20% in 2018.
Oh,
20% of people were buying costumes for their pets.
That's awesome. That doesn't surprise me at all. That sounds like something I would do.
I don't know how awesome that is for the pet. I mean, I really don't think pets like dressing up. I don't know. My dog, you could not put. She doesn't even like a collar most days. She gets it on her, but she no way in a million years would I get an outfit on her ever. Like she would just be like, she'd give me the big middle finger paw finger.
Yeah, no, my dog doesn't tolerate it.
No, but you know,
I've
guess,
got cats, and no way would I ever try to put a costume on the cats
and yet,
without being shredded to ribbons.
And yet in Japan, they sell all kinds of little outfits for kitty cats, and you see all these pictures of these girls with their little fluffy kitties in these little outfits, and I'm like, I don't know, you know, like
that's an animal.
I don't know. I mean,
yeah, but trying to get those outfits on the cats is a whole other story.
Yeah, they don't show us their arms all slashed and their, you know.
Exactly.
Like, completely angry at them for putting them in this. But I love the photos because you can truly look at some of the animals. Like when people take pictures of their pets in costumes, they either look embarrassed or pissed off, or my dog doesn't even, like, if I want to take her picture with my cell phone, she won't look at me. She turns away. She will not look at me. But I just look at some of the pictures and it makes me laugh. Like, I know some dogs actually seem like they're okay with it, some people's dogs, but every time I see a cat, it just looks really pissed that somebody's put a hat on its head or...
It's the same at Christmas. They do the same, you know.
I just think it's funny. Oh my goodness. I find it so amusing that, you know, but there you go. So there's a statistic that somebody went out of their way to analyze to find out that at least, you know, 20% in 2018 bought costumes for their little pets and or whatever those pets might be and dressed them up in them. I just think it's
that's new.
I think it's pretty funny.
I didn't know that. So that is a good, interesting fact.
Just one of those things, right? And I wonder too, like, you know, now that we're on those topics, like I'm gonna say, you know, candy manufacturers, it must be huge. So I'm gonna look up some stats on how much candy is actually sold at Halloween, because you know, when's the other time that candy's really sold? I mean, we sell, you know, chocolate at Easter. Like, isn't that really kind of the weird thing that all of these things, well, you know, they're food related to begin with in a sense. It's really all about, you know, how much stuff you can sell to your consumer around these celebrations or holidays, right? So let's see. What does it say? Does it have any idea how much? No. So I'm just looking at some stats here, and this is on, it's on a site called Mobile Cuisine, so I'm just going to look at it. So these are the Did You Know fun facts around candy. So technically June is National Candy Month. October 13th is National M&M's Day. November 4th is National Candy Day. But there's nearly 600 million pounds of candy purchased in the U.S. alone for Halloween.
Oh, I can imagine, yeah.
600 million pounds of candy. An incredible 90 million pounds of chocolate is sold during Halloween week. And that is a strong lead compared to other holidays. 65 million pounds is sold during the week leading up to Easter and 48 million pounds over Valentine's. So it actually outsells Easter and Valentine's Day. Crazy. And if you add those two together, then you're getting 100%. And so between Easter and Valentine's Day, which would be 100% of candy sales, 90 million pounds of candy is sold just in the week leading up to Halloween. So that's insane. Yep. And then it says 10% of annual candy sales happen the days before Halloween. $2 billion worth of sales.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. That's a commodity, right? Chocolate is the preferred choice of sweets. 1.9 billion of Halloween candy. 1.2 billion is chocolate alone, and 680 million on any other kinds of sugar candy. Holy
That's
moly.
crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Oh,
but it
and
doesn't
here's something that I'm going to ask you guys. Okay, this says the top selling candy is candy corn. Americans purchase over 20 million pounds of candy corn over a year, although it says it's unlikely that every last one of those millions of candies is actually consumed. I can't stand candy corn.
I agree. It's nasty.
Nasty stuff.
I don't like candy corn either. No, I completely agree.
Who's buying all these 20 million pounds of candy corn? What is happening to the candy corn? Oh, really? Oh, no.
I don't. I hate it.
That's just funny, right? So,
well, the little kids probably like it.
I don't know. I've never liked it in my entire life. But then I never liked licorice either. So, it was one of those things.
Not really.
It's like licorice was not a thing I liked either. So it says after beloved candy corn, the leading bestsellers are Snickers, Reese's, Kit Kat, and M&M's. I always liked getting Mars bars myself.
Yes.
But, yep. And it says candy corn is the most searched candy term on Google.
Really?
Uh-huh. So over candy apples, gummy worms, and pumpkins, candy corn. The day of the year where most candy sales, October 28th. Of all the 365 days of the year, that is the most busy day in terms of candy. And it says the average American household spends about $44 a year on Halloween candy. So,
wow.
There you go.
I don't spend that much on Halloween candy.
I don't spend any.
I just don't like how they sell it. Like, they start selling it in August or some ridiculous month, where it's not Halloween. They start getting all the handy Halloween. And then there's never anything left.
Is that? That's a lot of candy. I
don't know anybody who spends that on candy. Now, maybe I'm not hanging around with the right people, but...
She says that with the right people. The people that spend a lot of money on candy.
Well, maybe they want to share some, but
I don't know.
I'm not personally spending $40 on, Halloween candy.
I don't know, though. Like, nowadays, it's so expensive. So even just to buy a little box of chocolate bars, isn't that like, I don't know about in U.S., but here in Canada, it's like, what is it, like $20 or something for those tiny little bars that you get?
Yes, that's true. I like the little chocolate bars. Those are my favorites. They don't last long, like the Kit Kat, the cute little. But yeah.
Are you still there?
Looks like we've lost Ian again.
I think we did, and I can't seem to. I'm not seeing him anywhere. Oh, well, his phone probably died, and he can't contact us because.
Oh.
So.
It's just us.
Darn. Make sure next week, Ian, if you're listening, that you don't go down during your show on Halloween the movie, because Rachel and I are going to go in some other direction if that happens.
Indeed.
That's it. But, oh my goodness. So, that's it.